Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering video. So today I'm going to be doing an unboxing of a Duel deck. This is a Duel deck from quite a while ago. I think this came out in around 2010. So we're going back in time for this one. This is Elspeth versus Tezzeret. So just to get the chronology right here. You may have already seen me unbox the anthology Duel decks. So that was a package that contained the first 4 Duel decks that were released. So when they were originally released, the deck that came out after that, the 5th deck, was Phyrexia versus the Coalition, and then the 6th Duel deck that was released is this one, which is Elspeth versus Tezzeret. So that's where it all fits into the order in which the Duel decks were released. So we're going to have a look at this, see what's inside it. First we'll have a bit of a look at the back and see what sort of backstory we've got on here. So a little bit about Elspeth, Tyrell, a little bit about Tezzeret, and just making the point that there are in this box as a whole there are 12 rare cards, and 6 of the cards have new artwork, and also the lead cards, so that's Elspeth and Tezzeret, are both in foil, and they're alternate art versions of what had already been seen. So in here's the 2 decks, 2 deck boxes, 3 creature tokens, a strategy guide and a learn to play guide. So this will probably be the old style learn to play guide. So let's open this up. So with these particular deck boxes, they basically something that you can store these decks once you've opened them. These aren't big enough to basically take a deck which has been sleeved. So just so you can see the artwork on those deck boxes. So it looks like implying from the mana symbols that this is a mono white deck and a mono blue deck. Before we have a look at the decks, I'm just going to open this up in case. Yeah, this is the first video you've seen of me unboxing these Duel decks. So this is the old style insert. Now when you sort of buy sealed products, as in pre-constructed decks, you get a sort of slimmed down version of this. But this basically goes through how to get started playing Magic, how to cast spells, the turn order, parts of the magic card. The magic card, bits about the combat phase, how attacking and blocking works, an example of combat, the different card types, and then a glossary which just explains key magic terminology that you may come across when you're playing. And then on the back it always had this sort of representation of the board. Now actually what's interesting about this, I've recently been playing around with Duels of the Planeswalker again, and if anybody's played that on whichever platform, either on the PS3 or on Xbox or on a PC, it's laid out in very much the same fashion. this sort of representation of the game board. And then there's also just a nod to whatever product was out at this point in time, obviously to get you to buy more stuff. And summary of the Planeswalkers. I actually sort of missed this big how to play thing, but the trouble is once you've seen one of them, then they're all pretty much the same. Okay, so then what we also have is probably more importantly, if you're already familiar with Magic, is how the decks play. This is the accompanying guide for the dual decks. So they normally put it with this sort of product a bit of the backstory surrounding this particular matchup, and because it's Planeswalkers involved, then they're going to have a bit of an explanation about how loyalty abilities work and other in-game sort of mechanics, I suppose, of Planeswalker. And then on the back, and this is the bit I always find useful myself, in that you get a deck listing, but it includes the notable printings, like where the stuff's come from. Because the appeal of dual decks, for me anyway, is that you have decks here which contain Magic's cards throughout Magic's history. And so these aren't, you know, standard legal. They're going to be legal in other certain formats which have a sort of larger pool of cards, maybe. But they're not really designed. I mean, these are designed to be played against one another, and they're designed for sort of fun interactions, and sort of fun interactions that you get from having cards throughout Magic's history. And that's another reason why, before we had Commander product, I think dual decks were very popular with multiplayer players, and they were able to get certain staples which weren't always easy to get, because they would sort of crop up in this sort of product. And then also you have this description of how the deck plays and what you have to bear in mind. These are actually pretty long, these ones actually. Goes into certain key cards as well that are going to be critical in the deck. Sounds like what we've got here is basically, no surprise with Elspeth anyway, is an aggressive soldier deck that's going to hit hard in the early game. And then there's also some efficient removal in here as well. And the Tezzerets, so it looks like we're basically playing to various synergies in here. So we'll take a look as we go through the decks and maybe get a bit of a better feel for what the synergies are, what strengths the decks play to. So we'll start off with Elspeth. You can see here we've got a nice shiny foil. So Elspeth casting cost. So this is Elspeth Knight Errant. It's 2 colourless and 2 white. Loyalty is 4. And the ability is +1, put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. Also there's another +1, which is target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of turn. And the -8 ultimate is you get an emblem with artifacts, creatures, enchantments and lands you control are indestructible. Have a look at our deck. As you can see, I've got some tokens here, which are the tokens that are going to get generated certainly from Elspeth. So these are 1/1 soldier creatures, and we got our mana base here, and we'll just have a quick look through and get an idea of the artwork. This looks like a cross-section of various artwork from Magic. Looks like some sort of mirrored in artwork there actually. Often when you're dealing with planeswalkers, planeswalker-led decks, you'll often find the artwork is some sort of nod to the backstory, the planeswalker and their sort of home planes, or the planes that they're in at the point in which Magic's backstory is at. Okay, so we're moving on to our sort of non-basic lands. We've got Rustic Cluckan in here, I think that's how you say that, or Cluckan. That's a land. As a Rustic Cluckan enters the battlefield, you may reveal a Kithkin card from your hand. If you don't, Rustic Cluckan enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add 1 white to your mana pool, reinforce 1. So for 1 and a white, you can discard this card and put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So a nice bit of utility on that. Kabira Crossroads. Kabira Crossroads enters the battlefield. Tap. When Kabira Crossroads enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. Tap, add 1 white to your mana pool. Daru Encampments. Tap, add 1 colourless to your mana pool. 1 white, tap, target soldier creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Swell of Courage. It's 3 and 2 white instant here. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn, and reinforce X, where X, for X and 2 white, discard this card, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature. Salt Blast, 3 and 2 white, destroy target non-white permanent, that's sorcery speed. Abolish, 2 and 2 white instant. You may discard a plains card rather than pay abolished mana cost, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Blinding Beam, 2 and a white instant. Choose 1, tap 2 target creatures, or creatures don't untap during target player's next untap step. Entwine for 1 colourless. Crusade, 2 white enchantment, white creatures get +1/+1. Razor Barrier, 2 and a white, it's an instant. Target permanent you control gains protection from artifacts or from the colour of your choice until end of turn. Raise the Alarm, 2 and a white, puts 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, so another way to get those tokens into play. There's 2 of those. Mighty Leap, 2 and a white instant, target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. Journey to Nowhere, 2 and a white enchantment. When Journey to Nowhere enters the battlefield, exile target creature. When Journey to Nowhere leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Swords to Plowshares, 1 white instant, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. There's 2 of those. Sunlance, 1 white. Sunlance deals 3 damage to target non-white creature. So moving on to our creatures now. Angel of Salvation, 6 and 2 white for this one. It's a 5/5. It's got a flash on it and Convoke. So each creature you tap while casting this spell reduces its cost by 1 colourless or by 1 mana of that creature's colour. Has flying. And when Angel of Salvation enters the battlefield, prevent the next 5 damage that will be dealt this turn to any number of target creatures and or players divided as you choose. Conclave Equinaut, 4 and 2 white, 3/3 creature human soldier, also got Convoke on it. Has flying. Catapult Master, 3 and 2 white. For 3/3, tap 5 untapped soldiers you control, exile target creature. So that you can see this sort of theme in there where you can tap creatures down to activate certain things or as alternative costs. Stormfront Riders, 4 and a white, 4/3 flying. When Stormfront Riders enters the battlefield, return 2 creatures you control to their owner's hand. When Stormfront Riders or another creature is returned to your hand from the battlefield, put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. Conclave Phalanx, 4 and a white 2/4 with Convoke. When Conclave Phalanx enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each creature you control. Seasoned Marshal, 2 and 2 white 2/2. Creature Human Soldier. Whenever Seasoned Marshal attacks, you may tap target creature. Celestial Crusader, 2 and 2 white for a 2/2 creature spirit with flash, so you can cast a spell anytime you would cast an instant. It also has Split Second on it, so with Split Second, as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. Has Flying, and other white creatures get +1/+1. Kemba's Skyguard, 1 colourless 2 white 2/2 creature Cat Knight with Flying. When Kemba's Skyguard enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. Core Hookmaster, 2 and a white 2/2 creature Core Soldier. When Core Hookmaster enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Barenton Bombardier. Barenton Bombardier. 2 and a white 2/2 creature Kithkin Soldier. It's got Flying and Reinforced 2. So with Reinforced 2, you pay 2 and a white. Discard this card, put 2/1/1 counters on target creature. Core Aeronaut, 2 white 2/2 creature Core Soldier. It's got Kicker, 1 and a white. So you can pay that. So in addition to its regular ability of Flying, when Core Aeronaut enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, target creature gains Flying until end of turn. Temple Acolyte, 1 and a white 1/3. When Temple Acolyte enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. That's a creature Human Cleric. Core Skyfisher, 1 and a white creature Core Soldier. Flying, when Core Skyfisher enters the battlefield, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand, and that's a 2/3. And there's a couple of those in the deck. Glory Seekers in the deck, 2 and a white 2/2 creature Human Soldier. Mosquito Guard, 1 white 1/1 first strike. This has got Reinforce of 1 on it, and we've seen the Reinforce already. Loyal Sentry, 1 white 1/1. When Loyal Sentry blocks a creature, destroy that creature and Loyal Sentry. Infantry Veteran, 1 white 1/1 creature Human Soldier. Tap target attacking creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Gold Meadow Harrier, 1 white 1/1 creature Kithkin Soldier, and for 1 white you can tap target creature. Elite Vanguard, 1 white for 2/1, and there's a couple of those, and there's our other soldier token. So we get a couple of soldier tokens, although we probably could end up generating more than a couple if we were playing this deck. So that's the Elspeth Knight Errant deck. You can see there are lots of very cheap white creature spells in there. Okay, so let's look at Tezzerett. So let me see, that's not very clear. 3 colourless and 2 blue. I think that's in. Yep, 3 colourless, 2 blue. 4 loyalty and +1 ability. Untap up to 2 target artifacts. -X ability, search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. And -5, artifacts you control become 5/5 artifact creatures until end of turn. So what we're looking for in this deck is lots of artifact shenanigans. Maybe also involving turning artifacts into creatures. Okay, so a quick look through the artwork on the basic lands. Again, some of these look like they're mirrored in artwork. Okay. So moving on to our non-basic lands, we've got Stalking Stones. So tap, add 1 colourless to your mana pool. For a cost of 6 colourless, Stalking Stones becomes a 3/3 elemental artifact creature that's still a land. Seat of the Synod, so we've got one of these artifact lands from Mirrodin. Tap, add 1 blue to your mana pool. Mishra's Factory. Tap, add 1 colourless to your mana pool. 1 colourless Mishra's Factory becomes a 2/2 assembly worker artifact creature. Until end of turn, it's still a land. Tap, target assembly worker creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Darksteel Citadel, which is an artifact land that's indestructible, and you can also tap it for 1 colourless. And now we're moving on to our non-creature spells. So we've got Thoughtcast, which 4 and a blue has affinity for artifacts. So this spell costs 1 colourless less to cast for each artifact you control, and that's possibly an ability we're going to see a lot of in this deck. Draw 2 cards. Foil. A foil is a 2 colourless 2 blue instant. You may discard an island card and another card rather than pay foil's mana cost. Counter target spell. Argivian Restoration, 2 and 2 blue sorcery. Return target artifact creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Thirst for Knowledge, 2 and a blue instant. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. And there's a couple of those. Moonglove Extract, which is a 3 colourless artifact. We can sacrifice it, and it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Echoing Truth, 2 and a blue instant. Return target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as the permanent to their owner's hand. Trip Noose, 2 colourless. You can tap it for a cost of 2 colourless, and you can tap target creature. Energy Chamber, 2 colourless artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact creature, or put a charge counter on target non-creature artifact. Contagion Clasp, 2 colourless artifact. When Contagion Clasp enters the battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. 4 colourless tap Proliferate. So with Proliferate, we haven't seen this yet, in this deck anyway. You may choose any number of permanents and or players with counters on them, and give each other counter of a kind already there. Elixir of Immortality, another artifact, 1 colourless. So for 2 colourless, tap it, you gain 5 life, and you shuffle Elixir of Immortality and your graveyard into your library. Ether Spellbomb, 1 colourless artifact. For blue, you can sacrifice it and return target creature to its owner's hand. For for colourless, 1 colourless, you can sacrifice Ether Spellbomb and draw a card. Everflowing Chalice, 0 to cost. It's got multi-kicker 2, which means you can pay an additional 2 any number of times as you cast a spell. Everflowing Chalice enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each time it was kicked. Tap, add 1 to your mana pool for each charge counter on Everflowing Chalice. So if we just go back just to Contagion Clasp, you can see a cool interaction between that and Contagion Clasp, where Contagion Clasp can be used to give another counter of a kind already on something. And there's a couple of those. Crimulocks is a 6 and 2 blue 5/4 creature beast with affinity for artifacts with flying. Pentavus is a 7 colourless 0/0 artifact creature construct. Pentavus enters the battlefield with the 5 +1/+1 counters on it. 1 colourless, remove a +1/+1 counter from Pentavus. Put a 1/1 colourless Pentavite artifact creature token flying onto the battlefield. 1 colourless, sacrifice a Pentavite, put a +1/+1 counter on Pentavus. So you're you can be exchanging between a colourless Pentavite and a +1/+1 counter on Pentavus. And mixed into all of this, you've got that sort of proliferate as well. Triskelion, 6 colourless 1/1. Triskelion enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Triskelion. Triskelion deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Razor Mane Masticore, 5 colourless 5/5. First strike, artifact creature Masticore. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Razor Mane Masticore unless you discard a card. At the beginning of your step, you may have a Razor Mane Masticore deal 3 damage to target creature. Clockwork Hydra, 5 colourless 0/0. Artifact creature Hydra. So this enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever it attacks or blocks, you remove a +1/+1 counter from it. If you do, Clockwork Hydra deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Tap, put a 1/1 counter on Clockwork Hydra. Throughout the history of Magic, there's been various clockwork creatures that all have very similar abilities with counters. Fairy Machinist, or Fairy Mechanist, I think that is, it can be. Yeah, Fairy Mechanist. 3 and a blue, 2/2. Artifact creature, Fairy Artificer. Flying. When Fairy Mechanist enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact creature from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Synod Centurion, 4 colours 4/4. Artifact creature construct. When you control no other artifacts, sacrifice Synod Centurion. Juggernaut, 4 colourless 5/3. Juggernaut attacks each turn it's able. Juggernaut can't be blocked by walls. Pretty old Magic card. Frogmite, 4 colourless 2/2. Artifact creature Frog. Affinity for artifacts, so we've seen affinity already. Clockwork Condor, so another clockwork creature. 4 colourless 0/0. Flying. Clockwork Condor enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever Clockwork Condor attacks or blocks, remove a +1/+1 counter from it at end of combat. Trinket Mage, 2 and a blue 2/2. Creature Human Wizard. When Trinket Mage enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. Master of Ethereum, 2 and a blue, star, artifact creature Vidalcan Wizard. Master of Ethereum's power and toughness are each equal to the number of artifacts you control. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1. It's obviously heavy synergy with all the artifacts that we're playing in the deck. Esperzoa, 2 and a blue, artifact creature Jellyfish, 4/3. It's got flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, return an artifact you control to its owner's hand. Serrated Bisquillion, 3 colourless 2/2. Tap, put a -1/-1 counter on Serrated Bisquillion and a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Assembly Worker, 3 colourless 2/2 artifact creature Assembly Worker. Tap, target Assembly Worker creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Steel Overseer, 2 colourless 1/1. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control. Silver Mere, 2 colourless 1/1. Tap, add blue to your mana pool. Ruined Servitor, 2 colourless 2/2 artifact creature Construct. When Ruined Servitor is put into the graveyard from battlefield, each player draws a card. A couple of those. Steel Wall is in the deck, 1 colourless for a 0/4 with Defender. Arcbound Worker, 1 colourless 0/0 artifact creature Construct. This has modular 1 on it, so this enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. When it's put into a graveyard, you may put +1/+1 counters on target artifact creature. There's another soldier token which beefs up the 2 we have already, because we need a few of those in the Elspeth deck. And then there's some more islands here with the same artwork. Okay, so there we have our two decks. And obviously no surprise to see that the abilities of the Planeswalker and the choice of Planeswalker very much reflects the synergies in the deck and what the decks care about. So, you know, the Elspeth deck is caring about these sort of soldier creature tokens and the soldier theme in the deck. Obviously giving one its ultimate ability is going to give artifacts, creatures, enchantments and lands that you control are indestructible, and the other +1 ability where you're sort of giving +3/+3 and gaining flying. So there's a lot of these other little abilities in the deck you've seen in the white deck, you know, tapping down and doing this other stuff. With the Tezzeret deck, obviously cares an awful lot about artifacts, and so there's some sort of clever artifact synergies and also token synergies. It's interesting that we only saw, I think, one card with Proliferate on there, but there's lots of other, you know, token shenanigans going on in there, and also both on here, and I think there was at least one other card which allowed us to tutor up for artifacts. This one's nice because the Trinket Mage, I think it was basically, it's like one casting cost or one casting cost or less. With this one, it's scalable. And of course, the other thing to remember with this is you need to know your deck, because you need to know how much mana to expend when you go away and tutor for particular artifacts, because that's going to have an impact on the casting cost. And then finally, this thing about artifacts that you control becoming 5/5 artifact creatures until end of turn. As you saw, a number of these creatures are actually already artifacts, and it's going to be interesting because some are on the smaller side. So that's like exploiting the fact that they're artifacts to I think to real neat effect with that. So not only is it sort of taking those creatures, those things which aren't already creatures, but it's also taking those smaller creatures and basically making them 5/5 artifact creatures. Anyway, there we have the Elspeth versus Tezzeret dual decks. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.